What's the range between the amount of remote jobs and in the workplace and analysis jobs?
I don't know a percentage, I can't put it on the split, but very, very limited remote jobs. You've got to be in the club, you've got to be around the players, you've got to be there. So, if you get the Tampa, Florida example that we said, if you apply for that job, you've got to be prepared to move to Florida. You can't do it from England because you've got to be there with the players. You need to be there with the coaching staff to do that. You might have to do the filming stuff, you might have to do different bits of content or whatever, team meetings, and it's like coaching. You can't really coach remotely. You're not going to, set up a Zoom and start setting your cones up that way and doing it through that. So yeah, it's very rare that you'll get remote jobs. Maybe scouting, that's kind of a form of analysis. You might get a few remote ones there, but it's very rare you'll get a remote, job as a first team analyst.
If you were to get a good word from a former GB coach, what would be the chances of increasing your chance to get that job?
Obviously, something like that would be like gold dust. If he's a respected Team GB coach, so in your case, obviously the boxing side of it, if it's someone that is respected, and if they're a Team GB coach, they're going to be. There might be some people that work at a professional club, whether it's football, rugby, and they might not be that respected. But obviously someone at that level, national team or governing body, people that work for FIFA or the FA or the RFU or Team GB or EIS, they're generally respected people. So with their word and that weight behind it, whatever role it might be, you might be going for another job at the EIS or Team GB, or it might be a job somewhere, semi-professional rugby or whatever. If they can put in a good word for you, that would hold a lot of weight.
In a football club, typically, what do they ask for analysis?
Again, I touched upon it before, it all depends on what the coach wants. So as an analyst, you're working for the coaching staff and the players. So every coach has got a different coaching philosophy. Every player is different. So it will depend on what they want. You might get a bit of free rein sometimes. Or you get to do what you want to do, and you can see areas and strengths and weaknesses, or you might spot a few things that you want to bring to the attention of the players or the management. But generally, you'll work with that coach at the start of the season. You'll know, what their philosophy is, what their playing style is. You'll know the players you've got, and you'll know what you give them. The basic stuff, which is kind of standardised across everything, you're always going to give players their clips. So in team sports, if you're the left back, every time the left back touches the ball in that game or, interacts with play, does a run off the ball or whatever, his clips will be clipped out or her clips will be clipped out, and they'll be given to that player on their device or whatever software or app they use. And that's pretty standard across the board. You're obviously going to clip out set pieces so you can see how you're defending or attacking set pieces in football and rugby and hockey. And then you're going to obviously clip out your goals and things like that. Then it's more specific stuff. So once you've got the basics out of the way, then it becomes more detailed and it's more coach specific. So it all depends on the coach really. But the basics are always there, the player clips, the set pieces. And then obviously with the stats and the data now, it's more looking at data from the previous few seasons or however X amount of games, and they start looking at that kind of data, playing data, GPS data for the players and things like that.
So off that last question,
yeah,
would you say word of mouth sometimes more important than what you've got on your CV and stuff like that?
It definitely is very, very important. And in some cases, yeah, it can be absolutely more valuable than what's on your CV. Obviously, your CV, you can only put so much on there, and you've got to assume that the person who's wanting to employ you or whoever's doing the recruitment process is going to read it all. They might just read the first line or the first few words and then chuck it to the side. Whereas if someone's physically got them and said, or whatever, WhatsApp or text, and said, I've worked with James 2 years ago, or I know someone that's worked with him, he does a really good job. It's going to put you in good stead. It's going to give you a lot of benefits compared to just having a CV. So yeah, word of mouth is massive. Hence why it was underlined and bold on there. It does have a big importance.
How does your day in life working for in-play differ from someone working at a club?
So it's quite black and white really. I'm more running a business now. I don't do any analysis. Whereas if I was at a club, I'd be doing all the analysis jobs. So whether, again, at a club it might be filming, I might be lucky, I might have the camera systems filming it for me, or an intern filming it. Then I'd be in charge of doing the analysis. I might even have an intern or interns coding and doing the analysis for me. And then I'd be putting together, managing those members of staff, putting together all the presentations, whatever, every club does it differently. Feedback sessions, individual clips to mobiles, or team sessions, presentations, defenders and attackers in sessions separately. There's loads of different ways you can do it, however you chop it up, but that's the analysis side, whereas now I don't code. Obviously I'm using Imp Online when I'm demoing and what you're going to be using it to do the coding and clipping, but I'm not doing any presentations for, post-team feedback or post-game feedback, should I say, and I'm not doing any, filming or anything like that. It's just pure stuff like this, business, sales, marketing, meeting clients.
Be open and honest with this. How do you think universities, and me in particular as module leader on this, can better equip our students to make them more employable? What do you think we're missing? Because I think I'm missing a lot, and I need to know kind of how do I better equip the student?
Yeah, it's a good one. Obviously, things like this help without me being, again, too biased, people coming in. But I think and again, I can only go off my personal experience, which has helped me get to where I am today, and it's always so cliche, and a lot of unis do it, but they don't do it that well, it's those links into the industry. Yeah. So for you guys, it'd be, can you get a link with Sunderland and Newcastle United? Yeah. Obviously, easier said than done. I was lucky that when I was at Leeds Met, the university had connections with Leeds United. If they were Premier League, would that connection have been as good? Who knows? It's like, Newcastle are flying now. Is that going to be a hard thing for the uni to do? Would they turn their nose up because it's Sunderland uni and not Newcastle? Leeds Met, when I was there, we had that connection with Leeds United, but we also had a connection with Bradford and Leeds rivals, or Huddersfield Town. I worked at Huddersfield. One of my lecturers worked at Huddersfield, then he moved to Leeds. So you can do that. It's not the barriers that can be knocked down. It's not that territorial, I don't think, when education's involved. But I'd definitely say things like this, getting those kind of, without me, if I didn't get that opportunity when I was in my second year at Leeds to go and work at Leeds, even though it was coaching originally, I wouldn't have done what I did. I wouldn't have seen that gap in the market. I wouldn't have done in-play, and I wouldn't be here now. So definitely those avenues, and I'll give them more opportunity in terms of practical opportunities. But that's easier said than done. It's trying to get those links and those avenues in to get their foot in the door and to start doing that, and even building on the stuff that we've looked at here, where it sounds very basic, but doing things on creating LinkedIn profiles, creating a portfolio of work. You can do whatever you want. There'll be loads of clips on YouTube of boxers. Rip all the videos off YouTube and analyze it using in-play online or whatever, and start putting stuff out on Twitter, and that's your little portfolio of work. You analysing what you saw was good and bad at a certain boxer or fight.